Okay, let's dive in. Today, we're really unpacking something that can be, well, deeply personal and often incredibly confusing. Welcome to the deep dive. We're really glad you're joining us today.
Yes, welcome. Today we're looking into a new series from Fundamental Foundations Counseling Center. It's all about narcissistic abuse recovery.
Right, a three-part series. And this is something, whether you're just starting to think about healing or maybe you want to understand these dynamics on a deeper level, this series seems designed for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It aims to offer insight, compassion, and importantly, actual tools for change.
And the specific piece we're diving into today is their article, 10 Signs You're in a Narcissistic Relationship and How Therapy Can Help.
And it really hits on something so many people experience, that confusing journey where things maybe start out feeling incredibly intense, like this amazing connection.
Yeah, that charm phase.
Exactly. Before it somehow shifts and suddenly everything feels confusing, maybe painful.
And you start questioning yourself, right? The article mentions those thoughts like, is it me? Am I just too sensitive? Or even, is this what love is supposed to feel like?
It's deeply unsettling, and that's where self-doubt really takes root.
So our goal here is to unpack the 10 signs the article lays out, and then crucially explore what the source says about how therapy can actually help someone navigate out of that confusion.
And, speaking of help, the source of the article, Fundamental Foundations Counseling Center, they actually provide services. If you happen to be in the Little Elm area, they offer specialized trauma-informed support.
That's good to know. And they seem to have different ways to access care, too. I saw they mentioned monthly membership plans.
Yeah, basic, premium, VIP tiers. Apparently they come with different benefits, things like workshops, family session access, maybe session rollovers, that kind of thing, for more priority access.
Okay. And for someone maybe not ready for like a monthly thing.
They also mentioned something called a Discovery Pack. Sounds like a one-time deal, 3 full sessions, explicitly with no pressure to continue, sort of a way to test the waters.
A way to try it out, see if it fits. It all points back to that idea of investing in your well-being, which the article definitely touches on later.
Absolutely. That message that you are worth that investment.
So our mission here really is to pull out the core insights from this material.
To help you, if you're listening and this resonates, maybe see these patterns a bit more clearly.
And understand what paths might be available for healing and sort of reclaiming yourself. And this deep dive, it isn't about slapping labels on people.
No, not at all. It's about using these insights, these patterns from the research, to see if they might help explain that confusion you might be feeling.
Okay, so let's get into those core patterns. The sources lay out about 10 key signs that often show up when narcissistic dynamics are at play.
Right. And it's important to see them less as isolated incidents and more like a kind of pattern, a tapestry of control and self-centeredness that can really erode your sense of reality.
10 signs. Okay. And the first one you mentioned is something so many people describe. That feeling of constantly walking on eggshells.
That's a huge one in the research. It's that feeling where you start holding back.
You don't bring up issues or your needs or even just how you're genuinely feeling.
Exactly. Because you learn to anticipate and, frankly, dread the reaction you'll get.
And it's not just disagreement we're talking about.
No. It can be explosive anger or that really chilling silent treatment. Or maybe they twist it so expertly that suddenly you're the one to blame for bringing it up.
Ah, that blame shifting. That feels like a good lead into the next sign, actually. This pattern of twisting the truth.
Yes. This is where you might find yourself catching them in lies pretty regularly.
Or experiencing gaslighting, that specific thing where they make you doubt what you know happened.
Precisely. Or they just change the story about events you both experienced. And the sources really emphasize the impact of this.
It makes you doubt your own memory, your sanity even.
It can, yeah. Because they often deliver their version with such absolute conviction. It's very disorienting.
Wow. And besides messing with your reality, there's also that constant chipping away at your self-worth, the criticism.
And the material is really clear. This isn't constructive feedback we're talking about.
No.
It's pervasive.
Yeah.
It often targets really core things about how you look, how you parent, your voice, maybe even your laugh.
Things that make you you.
Exactly. And it's rarely helpful. The sources describe it more as cruel or mocking, designed to make you feel like nothing you do is ever good enough.
So painful. And then what happens when something good happens for you? Or when you're really hurting? That brings us to the next pattern, right? Dismissing your success or your pain. So if something good happens to you or something bad, they don't really engage with it.
Or worse, they make it about them. The article points out how they might minimize your achievements, maybe act jealous, or downplay your struggles. It's like your feelings or accomplishments are inconvenient.
Or a threat.
Or a threat to their own ego, yeah. Like you're stealing their spotlight or something.
That ties into the fifth sign the article mentions. Love is conditional.
This is a big one.
Love that feels conditional.
Yes. The research really stresses this. Things like affection, attention, support, stuff that should be, freely given in a healthy relationship, it gets withheld unless you're basically pleasing them or meeting their expectations.
So if you assert yourself or set a boundary,
then the warmth can just vanish. Click.
Yeah.
Replaced by coldness, withdrawal. It's like a switch flips.
That sounds incredibly destabilizing and often leads to another tough outcome, isolation.
You're isolated from others.
How does that typically happen?
The article says it can be subtle, maybe negative comments about your friends, making it uncomfortable when you see family. Or it can be more overt, actively discouraging those connections.
And the result?
Your world starts to shrink. You feel more alone, maybe ashamed of what's happening, and increasingly dependent on the person who is isolating you.
It cuts off your support system. Okay, number 7 is fascinating. They have a public mask.
Right. This is incredibly disorienting for the person experiencing the abuse. The source describes this huge difference between how they act in public, charming, maybe generous, well-liked.
The pillar of the community sometimes.
Exactly. Versus how they act behind closed doors, controlling, dismissive, maybe cruel.
And that makes it almost impossible for others to believe your experience.
Precisely. You feel like nobody would believe you, which reinforces that isolation.
It makes you doubt yourself even more. What's sign number 8?
Sign 8 is that they use guilt and shame as weapons.
How does that work?
The article explains you're made to feel guilty for really basic human things, like needing help or asking a question, wanting something for yourself, or even setting a simple boundary.
So your own needs become proof that you're somehow selfish or wrong.
Exactly. Your own emotions or values get twisted and used against you to control you.
That sounds like a real mind trap. Number 9.
Number 9, you can't predict their moods.
The roller coaster.
Absolutely. The article highlights these unpredictable swings. One minute they might be adoring, showering you with compliments.
And the next.
Demeaning, critical, cold, or furious. With no clear trigger sometimes, so you're constantly on edge, trying to anticipate their mood, trying to avoid setting them off. Back to those eggshells again.
That constant hypervigilance must take a massive toll, which leads, I guess, to the final sign.
It does. Sign number 10, you don't recognize yourself anymore.
This sounds like the cumulative effect of everything else.
It really is. The source describes feeling completely drained, perpetually anxious, maybe like just a shell of the person you used to be. Perhaps you were confident or creative or joyful, and that person feels lost now.
And it can manifest physically, too.
Yes. The article mentions potentially struggling with depression, symptoms that look a lot like PTSD, or even physical illnesses cropping up due to the chronic stress. It's a profound erosion of your identity.
That's a heavy list. But the article doesn't just leave us there, right? It talks about healing.
Thankfully, no. It pivots to hope and emphasizes that healing is possible. And it makes a really important point.
Which is?
Healing isn't just about getting out, although that might be part of it for some. It's about addressing what the abuse actually did to your mind, your body, your spirit.
And therapy is presented as a key resource for that.
Yes. The source frames therapy as a judgment-free, empowering space designed specifically for this kind of complex recovery work.
So how specifically does the article say therapy helps? What are the concrete ways?
Okay. The first way mentioned is helping you reclaim your reality.
Getting back on solid ground after all the potential confusion and gaslighting.
Exactly. It involves learning how these manipulation tactics actually work, understanding gaslighting, understanding trauma bonds, that intense connection that can form in abusive situations.
So knowing the playbook helps you see it for what it is.
Right. It helps you start trusting your own instincts, your own perceptions again, after they've been deliberately undermined for so long.
That makes sense. What's the second point?
Second, therapy helps you set boundaries without guilt.
Which, as we discussed, is incredibly hard in these dynamics because you expect that backlash.
Absolutely. The source highlights that a trauma-informed therapist provides specific support and tools to practice setting and enforcing boundaries. And it notes the particular difficulty and need for support when things like co-parenting or shared responsibilities are involved.
Acknowledging those complexities is important. Okay, third.
Third, therapy helps you regulate your emotions.
Because the aftermath often involves really intense feelings.
Definitely. Anxiety, maybe panic attacks, feeling completely overwhelmed or flooded emotionally, even dissociate, that feeling of kind of checking out or feeling disconnected,
Yeah.
these are common. Therapy provides tools to manage these intense states.
Learning coping mechanisms.
Yes, ways to soothe your nervous system and handle those big emotional waves. Fourth, the article says therapy helps you rebuild your identity.
Getting back to that 10th sign, finding yourself again.
Exactly. It's about reconnecting with those parts of yourself, your interests, your values, your strengths that might have been silenced or mocked or just neglected during the relationship. It's about starting to rewrite your own story.
Reclaiming who you are. And the final point.
The final way therapy helps, according to the source, is crucial for those who might still be in the situation. It helps create a safe exit or recovery plan.
Providing practical support for potentially leaving.
Yes, support around safety planning, thinking through decisions, figuring out next steps. And the article specifically assures that this is done without pressure or shame. It's about supporting your decisions at your pace,
Right.
prioritizing safety.
That non-judgmental support sounds vital.
It really is. So wrapping it all up, the core message from this Fundamental Foundations article, if any of this resonates,
Is that you're not alone in this experience.
not at all. And you are not crazy.
Yeah.
Narcissistic abuse is real, it's incredibly painful, but the article emphasizes it is survivable.
There's hope for untangling the confusion.
Yes. With support, the source suggests it's entirely possible to stop those painful cycles, find clarity, and really begin to feel like yourself again, to heal.
Which leaves us with maybe a final thought to reflect on.
Yeah. Consider the incredible strength it takes just to navigate, day in and day out, a reality where your own truth is constantly being questioned or twisted.
That sheer endurance.
And then reflect on the immense power that comes from making the choice, even tentatively at first, to start trusting your own voice again, your own feelings, your own reality, beginning that journey back to yourself.
Take control of your mental health with our membership program. Enjoy priority scheduling, session rollovers, and in-office and virtual appointments when you need them. Fundamental Foundations Counseling Center offers affordable plans tailored to your needs because your wellness matters. Visit fundamentalfoundcounseling.com to join today.